Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling the meeting to order, the meeting of the Community Engagement Advisory Committee. I'd like to thank you for the viewing audience for tuning in. And I'd like to, at this time, ask Bishop Smith to lead us in an invocation.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for being so gracious. We thank you for being understanding. We thank you for your mercy. Now, as we have our meeting on tonight, Lord God, I thank you that you would lead us and guide us. We thank you for our wonderful city and our leadership. God, continue to give us the grace to come up with ideas to make our city better so we can continue to be one city, a united city. And we thank you right now for all that you're doing during this Christmas season. I thank you for blessing those who are less fortunate and bless those that are around the table tonight. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Welcome everybody to this pre-Christmas committee meeting. If there's any guests in the house, I'd like to go ahead and extend a welcome to that, Sergeant. And just a fast recognition of all members of the committee here. We'll start off with you, Marsha.
Marsha Wright, I'm here representing the city of Jacksonville.
Steve Horning, also city, also on the planning board.
Yeah, I got you.
Tracy Jackson, Community Engagement Manager with the Community Engagement Department.
Pamela Trafton, Community Engagement Coordinator.
Paula Jones, city of Jacksonville.
Brian Jackson, City Council Liaison.
And Frank Claiborne, Chairperson of the Community of Engagement Advisory Committee.
Will Smith, Vice Chairman.
Yes. Okay, a motion. Did we do that? I thought we introduced.
Oh,
I thought we did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. You want to stand up and give a brief background on your biology and everything else like that?
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
I'm good for putting people on the spot. Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Okay. Motion to adapt or amend the agenda is appropriate. Has anybody had the opportunity to review the agenda? Are there any changes or additional to the agenda? Tonight's agenda.
I would move that we adopt the agenda as printed.
Second the motion.
All in favor of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
Thank you. The agenda is adopted. Okay. We're gonna do something.
And at this time, we'd like to introduce Sergeant Philip Williams from the City of Jacksonville Police Department. He will provide us some information on bus safety and laws.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So just to give you a little bit of background, I've been with the police department about 23 years, and I'd say 17 of those years have been within the traffic division. I used to supervise them for about 10 years, and now I've moved over to the community service division and the K-9 unit. So as far as bus safety, within the city limits of Jacksonville, we've been very fortunate over the years since I've been here. We haven't had any incidents where kids were hit up until about 4 years ago, where we had a child that was hit by a bus. Now that was not a bus stop, it just was a child that ran out into the road and was struck by the bus. As far as a child that's been struck at a bus stop while boarding or getting off, to my recollection, it hasn't happened. We're lucky in a way because we do have quite a few violations within a year. On average, I would say the police department writes roughly 70 school bus violations a year. A lot of those violations that we write are in the same areas year after year. Every now and then we will have one that, might be in a different area. But we try to focus our enforcement action based off of community complaints, complaints that are coming from the school bus drivers, complaints that are coming from the school bus coordinators, which they send us a report from time to time on the locations and the times that we're having these violations happen. And some of those locations are Belfork Road. We have a few that come down to Johnson Boulevard. Others are out on Gum Branch Road and Country Club Road and Hargett Street. Those are our primary locations. So when it comes to what's the law? So the law says that You're required to stop for a school bus when it has its mechanical arm out, which is the stop arm, or its red flashing lights are on and it's stopped for the purpose of receiving or discharging children. And I say children, but there are a few other caveats to the law. One of them pertains to during natural disasters, when the school system might contract with maybe the city to transport elderly citizens. So it's not just the students. There are a few other exceptions that can be done, or your private bus companies such as Zeca. They are private, but you have to stop for those buses as well. So, like I said, the stop arm has to be out or the red flashing lights, and it has to be stopped for the purpose of receiving or discharging children. So when you see the bus stop on 24 at the railroad tracks and it puts on its red lights and it's opening the door, you don't have to stop for that purpose because they don't have any kids getting on or off the bus. So some of the locations, for example, and I think there's a diagram in your packet that has some a description and examples of when you have to stop for a school bus. And I'm going to give you some locally examples. I feel like that's the best way. So Johnson Boulevard out here. If you're on the opposite side of the road going in the opposite direction, you do not have to stop, okay? Because it's more than 4 lanes, okay, with a center turn lane. Your center turn lane, if it's continuous, acts as a lane, kind of as a lane, if it's continuous. Bell Fork Road, you have to stop on both sides of the roads because it's only 4 lanes. There's no positive divider in the middle, or there's not that 5th lane. Gum Branch Road, you would have to stop. It's similar to what Johnson Boulevard is because you have that continuous center turn lane. If you're on the opposite side of the road, you don't have to stop for it. Country Club Road, Target Street, you have to stop in the opposite direction. And of course, NC 24, only if you're on the same side of the road as the bus. As far as a road where you have like 2 lanes, Carolina Forest Boulevard, this is the best example I can give. It has that positive median down it, which is a concrete island that's raised up. You don't have to stop if you're on the opposite side of the road. So those are just some local examples of when you have to stop, when you don't have to stop. Again, if you're on the same side of the road, that's going in the same direction as the bus, you always have to stop, always. And when I tell people, because that's a lot of people say, I'm confused.
Yeah.
I tell them, when in doubt, stop.
Stop.
If you don't know, stop. I mean, that's the safest thing to do. As far as the violation for it, your first offense violation, if you're convicted in court, is 5 points on your driver's license. If you're just driving a regular car, if you're driving like a tractor trailer or commercial motor vehicle, it's 8 points. The fine is $500, which is a minimum fine of $500, and then your court cost is $190. So you're looking at close to $700. Now, there is no prayer for judgment, which a lot of people will go when they're speeding tickets, they ask for a prayer for judgment. The judge cannot give you a prayer for judgment on a school bus violation. And it's considered a misdemeanor as far as the traffic side of it. If you strike a child, and I'm not saying injured, if you just hit the child or hit the person, it is a Class I felony. They don't have to be injured, and your minimum fine is $1,250, and your driver's license will be suspended for 1 year. And then, of course, it goes on. So, if you have, where the worst part of it is if someone dies, it's a Class H felony, then, of course, you're looking at some prison time or jail time. And of course, community service hours, and I don't know what the fines are because the Superior Court judge would set that. As far as your driver's license being revoked, if you get 2 convictions within a 3-year period, your license are suspended. And then if you get 3 convictions over any period of time, they're suspended for a minimum of 3 years. Or not a minimum, they're suspended for 3 years. Yes, so there's some serious consequences, which, there should be for passing school buses. And in the city, you've seen those extended arms that they've added. For For here in Onslow County, some of that resulted in, there was a child that was hit out off Dawson Cabin Road that was killed, and that's some of the reasons why they had those installed to the extent. We've actually had a few when they first were installed where cars actually hit them going in the same direction and didn't even stop. They just kept right on going. And it damaged the stop arm. Now with the school buses, not all of them have cameras on the outside, but there are a lot that do. So if you think that you don't, I'm gonna get away with it, I wouldn't take that chance. Because their cameras will take a picture of your front of your car, the back of your car, and you as a driver or passenger. And the cameras are very good with the quality. So they will forward those, if they're in the city, they will forward them to the police department, and the traffic division follows up on them, and they will issue a ticket. Obviously, that's evidence, that's part of it. And the fine, the $500 fine, that all goes back mostly for the purchase of those cameras. So if you're found guilty and you get that $500 fine, that goes to the school system, and it's for the purchase of other camera systems to put on these school buses. So it's not like the courts are getting it or the state's getting it, it goes to the school system.
Great.
Can you clarify anything on that crosswalk over by Jacksonville High School? I've seen it in action here lately, but boy, I'll tell you, when they have a mass exodus out of school, they come out I've been sitting here a couple times watching it, mass exodus, the lights blink, flash red. Everybody stops, the kids go across, okay, mill around in the parking lot on the other side of the school thing, okay? Light flashes again, back and forth. I'm sitting there and watching for about 10 minutes one day, and I said, wow. This is a heck of a traffic jam up here during school time when the bell goes off.
It is. So in the afternoon is the worst part of that. And the traffic signal has helped. And it's only for about 20 minutes or so is when you get in that congestion, because of what you just said. The kids will leave the school, sit over there and they talk, and half of them decide that they want to go back to the school. So it's called the Hawk system. So the Hawk system, for some people, we've had a couple of phone calls on it. What do I do? Well, it can be a little bit confusing because it will flash yellow. That's your sign that, hey, you need to slow down and, get ready to prepare to stop. And then it'll go to a solid yellow. And then it turns to the red. And then from the red, it goes to the flashing red. Now on flashing red, as long as there's nobody within the crosswalk, on a flashing red, you can, after you have come to a complete stop and ensure that it's safe to do so, you can go through that light on a flashing red. So it's just like at an intersection where it's flashing red, you stop, and once it's safe, you can do it. But the key is that there can't be anybody within that crosswalk. That's the key to that.
Thank you.
Hold on, Officer Williams.
Yes, sir.
On the roads you mentioned, are there certain areas where you're seeing the violations? Like for Hargett Street or Bell Fork, or I think you said Gum Branch? Is there?
Yes, sir. So Bell Fork is our most, I guess, problematic area. So Bell Fork and Market, that's one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The other is down towards Texie Lane. They stop at Texie.
Okay.
And that's as far as Bell Fork, that's our problem areas, those two right there. I missed one. We used to have one on 24, and of course, some of these will change.
Right.
Because if the people move and the bus don't stop there no more, then obviously the violation's not happening there. 24 was another location where we would write a lot of tickets, and it was right there by Tire Country. So just before Western, they would stop by the old Waffle House. I think it's Clean Eats now. They would stop in between those two businesses, and people in the same direction. They just would keep right on. And sometimes you try to pull over 3 or 4 cars, but they just keep right on going past it. So that was another location we had on 24. As far as Gum Branch, it's out towards. And please forgive me, I can't remember the subdivision, but it's just past Phoenix Park, directly across the street from Catalyst Church. That was another location. We've had some reports of them passing the school bus.
That's Emmett Brook and everything.
Phoenix Apartments.
Just past Phoenix.
Okay.
Williamsburg.
It was on the same side of Phoenix
Travelers.
Park Apartments, but, it's right across the street from it.
Yeah.
As far as Country Club Road, there was a house, there's a couple of areas there, and I don't know the street numbers, but they just would stop in two different places and, let somebody off at a house there on Country Club. And then, of course, once you cross over, Ashley Park Apartments was another location. But Belfort was our worst one.
And it's simply people just not paying attention. I was trying to see if there's any other.
No, so there's no sight distance issues.
Right.
It's just people not paying attention when it comes down to it. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Same to you, man.
It's interesting that people are in such a hurry sometimes, especially down Belfort Road. I see that, so the bus stops
this
here,
time,
let's go.
At this time, we'll look at the minutes of October 28th, 2019 meeting. They're provided for your consideration. Members should review the minutes and note any corrections. And then we'll have a motion to adapt or amend the minutes.
Motion to adopt the minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion to accept the minutes. All those in favor saying aye.
Aye.
All nay. Ayes have it. The minutes is adopted. Thank you.
Planning board update. Our meeting for November 12th was canceled. We had no agenda items. We did have a meeting on December 10th. 2 items. Both of them had to do with our Unified Development Ordinance text, actual amendments. One was a clarification of landscaping standards, which basically was around the retention ponds. And it was brought up because of several different construction sites, but it was just a clarification on it. The second one, and this applies to all Unified Development Ordinance, was to eliminate the term Development Services Director and insert in that place city manager or their designee. And what that was taking out, a specific title and putting in there that the city manager could delegate to whomever he chose to rewrite that, do this, do that, things of that nature. And that is all.
Any other questions on it, Councilman? Thank you. Ms. Marcia Wright?
All right. I'll be very brief and and you can follow along with me on the screen there about the census update. And you heard most of this before, but I'll go back over it for the listening audience. Counting every person who's living in the United States. And that is the goal of the census. That is the only thing that we are attempting to do with the census, is to count every person living in the U.S., and that means every person, period. Funds are distributed by population, and these 2 numbers you see here represent the $1,623, represents the amount of money that is returned to, in this case, Onslow County, from the federal tax revenues that go in. And the $205 represents revenues that come to Onslow County through the state, and that is per person. So you can see there's, significant amount of money, a little over $1,800, that each and every individual represents. That's why we need to count as well as we can to make sure that we get what we are owed back from the census. With the military count issue back in 2010, we lost, I'm trying to see if I see it on here, I think it was approximately 22,000 people were not counted because of the way they counted the military deployment at that time. And the primary losses were that we lost a chance for another congressional seat. I believe it's South Carolina that got that seat that we were hoping we would get. And you lose rankings and attention, not to mention the revenues I mentioned a moment ago, if you undercount. So we really do not want to do that again. And the issue that was causing that in 2010 has been fixed by the federal government. So this time, I think that we will get a good count, or we're hoping to make sure that we get a good count, and it won't be a problem with the military deployment the way it was last time. The census count is used for determining representation and redistricting. And so we want to count because, again, we want to have all the representatives we can get to Congress to represent us. And we have to remember that the census is the primary reliable source of population data that there is. So anytime you're needing to get information for grants or whatever you're going to do, the census count is the one that they rely upon. So we have to make sure that that is accurate. Residents use the data and it tells the story of our community. There's quite a bit of information that we do collect, and it's very useful to nonprofits, I'm sure to law enforcement, first responders, cities, counties, municipalities, whoever they might be, in order to tell the story of your community to possible grantors. And just to have the information we need to know so we can serve our citizens better. Now, businesses often use it to determine where to locate, depending upon the kind of business that you are thinking about opening, especially a franchise. You would certainly want to know good population information. If you're looking at where you want to put a school, you need good information on children. You want to put some kind of an eatery, as we have lots of in Jacksonville. You want to make sure you're going to have a market for whatever it is you're selling. So they use census data to determine that. And customer profiles also gives them some information, how young or old we are, how many older people, how many children, how many, whatever. So they can see whether or not this is a place that they would want to locate a business.
So have you got all the bases covered as far as how we're gonna approach people? And I presume you're using classes like that, setting up classes like that now.
We really are working on what we've been doing up until the end of this year is looking at the hard-to-reach populations, and I'll mention that a little bit further at the end of the presentation. Local governments use the info for the public safety and preparedness, same thing. They heavily use the data to know whether or not they need to increase the numbers of first responders, police, fire, things of this nature. And safety and preparedness in an area, especially like ours, where we are high on the list of natural disasters. We want to make sure that if we are having to go out and rescue people or go out and people get displaced, as they still are after Hurricane Florence, that we need to know that information so we can plan well for possible storms and recovery and things of that nature.
Excuse me one second. Tracy, do you know if, I know with Sandy Run Apartments, we were having an issue with addresses. I'm trying to figure out, because we're gonna have to deal with that definitely when the census come on.
Okay.
To make sure the addresses they were looking at a safety issue, making sure they're actually the right address, so if they get a call, fire department, police, or whatever, could actually be dispatched. But that may become an issue when we come up with this, to make sure we got accuracy of addresses. And it might be a thing when you guys go out that you actually see that they're not accurate as well. And make
Because I
sure
know
that's
that there are
reported
people
back.
right now who are going out to verify addresses and to let us know. It's not really their job to change anything.
Right.
Just to verify that if it says you've got apartment 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is, they're actually there.
Right.
And like you said, first responders, you do not need to have the fire department trying to drive around and trying to find you if you have called. And in rural areas, that is a problem. Some places it's just a matter of the sign isn't big enough. You know, you can't see it from the road, or you're in an older house, it's not painted well enough to see in the dark, things like that.
Right.
So I don't know if we'll look at all of that, but I think some of the people who are going out to do some of this work are sort of experienced, seasoned people, and they're making notes and things and bringing whatever they find back to us. It may not be a census issue, but it's an issue that somebody needs to be looking at.
Right, thank you.
Also, real estate developers use the data that we collect if you are in the business of buying or selling or developing homes, you might want to know how many people you've got out here that are needing to live somewhere, how old they are, what's the possibility of them being able to buy into the development that you plan on putting up. Is it low income? Is it on the higher end? Things of this nature, you would want to know. So they also look into census data to find out what's going on, to see if that's something that they would want to do. Now, responding this time will be easier than ever. It can be done online, it can be phoned in, or you can ask for paper. I think I heard in one of our recent meetings that there are certain areas within our community that are going to still be paper. Census Tract 26, which is New River, very close to here, is going to be paper. The primary reason for that is that it's interesting. They don't have a 44% of the homes who live in that area, including our community action agency. I asked this question just today. Don't have reliable enough broadband service, internet service in that tract to be able to try to do this online for the entire area. There are some areas where the service is apparently reliable enough that they feel they can execute it that way. I think a person could always, ask for paper if they want to, but they're going to be doing this by paper and phone in that area. So we're wondering, and that was a low response area as well. So we're looking at areas that were historically low response
So people
and
with-
make sure that we're trying to get a hold of them
Excuse
too.
me, like people that self-report, if they have access, can they just go ahead and do it even though they might live in that area?
I think they can. That's a good question, but I think that there are areas where you can opt whichever way you want to, and any way would be reliable. But with this particular area, and there's about 2 or 3 in the county that are like that, and that they're designating them, just flat out designating them as paper because they're not feeling that the internet service is going to be reliable enough to leave it to that.
That internet service, that includes cell phone service. So we also have a safety issue out there too, compounding the issue. which
And when you
is
drive
something we need to take a
around,
look at.
lots of people, I forget what they call it, I heard a nickname just the other day for that phenomenon. But you see kids congregating after school, they've gotten out of school.
Right, going back
And you
home.
drive around and they're in the parking lot or inside McDonald's, Hardee's, places like that, around, not only in Onslow, but neighboring counties. It's because all textbooks are now online.
Yeah.
And if you can't get online at home, what are you gonna do about your homework? So the kids are leaving school and driving over, I guess, or walking over, whatever they have to do, to the parking lots of the fast food places that have Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, so they can sit in the car and do the homework. Now, that's a question for the grown folks in this community to address by, absolutely it is. And it's very involved and very complicated, but, where there's a will, there's a way. This is the way I look at it. And so that's something that needs to be answered, but here we are at this point. So we're gonna have to do what we have to do over the short term, and then those are questions that are gonna have to be answered over
Figure
the
it
long
out.
term.
That goes back to that economic mobility issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like you would go to small space and not a big space.
And the last thing I would say is it's our civic duty. Everybody has a responsibility to help get an accurate count for the 2020 census. And I've been, fine tuning my message as I go around and see I have my pen on tonight for anywhere I happen to be. And I've been talking about this is a season that we're celebrating, the Christmas holiday. And if you will remember, I tell people, even if you don't think it's an important issue in the modern times, look at why we celebrate this. No woman who's expecting a baby in the 9th month is going to get astride a donkey and go traveling for miles and miles if she can help it. She did it because she was forced to do it because the empire she lived in, the Roman Empire, was conducting a census.
Yeah.
So census it goes way, 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 way back. And they did it on a regular basis. We do it on a regular basis. So it's our civic duty, and we should participate to make sure our community gets its fair share of the returns on revenues, tax revenues. The information is secure, confidential for 72 years. So anybody who is sitting in the house and has a baby in a blanket can be assured that whatever information they gives out, that baby will be 72 years old before the information they collect on that baby in the 2020 census will be available. You have a lot of people who are concerned about the privacy issues and confidentiality. And frankly speaking, the way things are these days,
It's gonna happen anyway.
privacy as we know it
You can't
is
get around
a,
it.
forget about an
Non-existent
issue.
almost.
It's not existent anymore.
Just hope the baby isn't paying for electricity.
Yeah. And they cannot share it with anybody else. And people who are working with this Department of the Census take a lifetime oath that they cannot reveal any personal information or they will face federal criminal prosecution. So this information is safe, it's secure. We need it because we need to make sure that we're getting the funds in to put our roads up, our streets. And one thing I will go back to is the amount of money that we estimate we lost since the 2010 census. Over that 10-year period of undercounting, we lost well over $400 million that would have come back to Onslow County in the form of state and federal tax rebates if we had had the kind of count that we should have had. And we're building, 2 new schools around the county right now. Think about what we could have done with that kind of money in terms of hurricane relief, roads, schools, just you name it, you know. And so we need to absolutely count every person who is living here. And when I say that, it's a very clean, very clear statement. There was some controversy earlier about citizenship and all that. That's off the table. We just need to know that as of April 1st, 2020, who is waking up in the United States. And for those people who are traveling or traveling back and forth or deployed, they're using what they call a businessman's rule. If you happen to be you live in Onslow County, but you happen to be in California doing a presentation for something on April 1st, you are not going to remain in California. You're coming home to Onslow County. So the point is, where are you currently normally residing is the rule of thumb. And so I hope and think that we will be getting a much better count. And the last one is, you see, for people who are viewing the website, there are still jobs available in Onslow County, and I think that they have slightly upgraded the,
$18 an hour.
yes, money that you can make for a short term, yes. And so if you know people who need jobs, they're full-time, part-time, at home, off-site, wherever they are. We just really, really, really need to get a good count on who we've got living in Onslow County and cooperate with this and try our best for our community. And even if you happen to be military, it doesn't change anything as far as your home record or your taxes or anything like that. But if you're gonna be here for a while, you need to be able to ride on nice roads and send kids to nice schools, so
Yes, ma'am.
participate. And we'll be coming back to you. We spent the last couple of months or a few weeks working on our hard-to-reach population subcommittees. Had a very nice meeting of our 0 to 5 population. We will be going into, I guess you call it hiatus for the holidays, and we will come back like gangbusters in January on to April to make sure that this works. So you'll see much, much more going out after the holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll listen to the community development presentation from Mr. Tracy Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to give a quick update on our annual action plan and our community development projects. The next input meeting for our planning process will be held January 23rd, year 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Clyde Irwin Elementary. I encourage the citizens to come out and tell us how we should spend our approximately $352,000 that we're going to be receiving. And of course, members of the SEAC and our CD committee is also invited to come out and support. I wanted to also give you an update on our projects, 124 Newberry Street, that's going to be down payment assistance home ownership. That house is almost completed. So it's about 99% complete. And I'm pretty sure that the home buyer, she's going to be excited into closing on her home sometime this month. We're gonna have to work out on the closing date, but we're looking to close before the end of this month. Also, 211 Sherwood Road, that has begun construction. The foundation has been put in and the framing has begun. I was told sometime last week that the client is picking out materials, so she's excited. That house is slated to be completed sometime in January. So we're looking forward to having a successful ribbon cutting ceremony in the springtime to cover these two homeowners when they accomplish this big undertaking. So we're excited and they're excited as well. Wanted to give you an update on our rehab projects. We completed our rehab project on Houston Road, and we're going to be starting our rehab on Carver Road in January. So our rehab program is still ongoing. I'm encouraging anyone who lives in the city limits to contact us here at the city, 910-938-5286, if they need any repairs, minor repairs on their homes here in the city. Also wanted to give you an update on our capital improvement projects. We have the shades for the shelters that's going to be at the Jack Amiette Park. Those have come in and they're going to be installed in the winter so that they'll be ready to go in the spring and the summer. So we're going to have some shade at the Jack Amiette facility. We just installed a bathhouse, and now we're going to have some shaded areas out there for a splash pad. Georgetown sidewalks, the bids have gone out for the sidewalks, and they're due back in December. So we're going to be installing sidewalks in the Georgetown area, possibly in January, more definitely in February. And of course, our Georgetown bathroom, that bid is also going to be advertised. We did receive one bid for that, and we're going to have to rebid that project. So we're going to have that going out this month so that we can begin construction on that project in mid-January. And also, I wanted to talk about economic mobility. We had a training with our GovX Academy and Johns Hopkins partners on December 11th. So some organizations and strategic partnership that were identified, they were invited to attend the training. And in the training, it was covered strengthening data management practices. We're in the first 6 months of the 2-year process. So in that training, the participant learned about data management, governance, sharing, inventorying, quality, and standards. We had a lot of input from the participants. A lot of synergy was created in the room. A lot of light bulbs went off. The participant realized how they could use data so that they can make strategic decisions from the information gathered. And not only the information they keep within internally in their organization, but external with other organizations. So we're looking forward to seeing the end project. It's going to be completed in about 2 years, and we're just excited about it. A lot of information was gathered during that training. Okay, and if you all don't have any questions, we're going to be moving toward Ms. Pamela Trafton.
Good evening, everyone. So first thing that we have is our pre-application funding opportunity workshop. It's 2 different dates, December 18th at 10 a.m. or December 19th at 2 p.m. You only have to attend 1 training. And these trainings are required if you are planning to submit an application for community development block grant funds or the public-private partnership funds. Normally, this training takes place in February after we do our annual conference, but we have moved it up this year to give applicants more time to prepare for the application with the changes that we've encountered this year. The training will take place here in meeting rooms A and B. Today is the last day to register, but if this is your first time hearing it, give me a call tomorrow at 938-6551, and we will get you in the class as well. So our consultant study, Country Club Villas, we've talked about Country Club Villas and the training that the partnership that we currently have with UNC School of Government's DFI. We were on a conference call today as a midway check-in just to see where we're currently at with all the information that has been gathered thus far from us providing them information and them providing us information back just to see if there's been any changes. Their focus is, of course, the market research, high-level site analysis, financial feasibility, and looking at what exactly should be recommended for us to move forward in Country Club Villas, formerly known as Myrtlewood. How to take that neighborhood and revitalize it. What's the input from the community? What's the input from the residents? We have a scheduled meeting January 27th where they will actually come back and give the city another update on what they have found from doing their most recent research. One of the things that they identified is the information that we gave them data-wise with the income and looking at neighborhood revitalization strategy area, we may have to revisit that and get more up-to-date information, seeing what residents are currently there, what's the income of that neighborhood, because we need to have at least 51% of the residents currently living there to look at an area low mod income benefits. So that's why we want to revisit and see what information we have out there. If you have not been through Country Club Villas lately, I suggest that you take a drive through Country Club Villas. It is a different feel when you drive through Country Club Villas. Phyllis Arp, who's one of our code enforcement officers that's primarily responsible for Country Club Villas, she mentioned that normally during Christmas time, you may have 2 or 3 people that have decorated for Christmas. There's actually more families that have decorated for Christmas this year. So it is definitely on a great up and up turnaround.
It's working.
Something's working, yes, sir.
Much cleaner, much cleaner.
Something is working for sure. But when you drive through it, it's definitely a different feel. So I suggest everyone to go through Country Club Villas, formerly known as Myrtlewood.
I have a question. I just wondered, has everyone that had a shelter or a home or apartment pre-Florence, have we covered all those people now? Or are we still having some issues of people that are homeless that don't have a house?
There's still some issues.
Yes, there are still some issues.
Because there are some folks that ended up in a hotel that now you're finding out that they were part of the Florence Red Carpet Inn. So, gathering information on what's needed, because I think Holiday Mobile Home City is actually in the process of possibly housing some of those and some of the trailers, but then I'm hearing some issues with down deposits. So we just gotta kind of
Well, I will
communicate.
share with the OSTRA, the Onslow Disaster Recovery Alliance. They have a unmet needs committee that they're getting ready to have more resources coming in. So they can call here at the city, 910-938-5286, so that we can get them on the list. And we meet every other Tuesday. So we meet twice a month, except when it has 5 Tuesdays in it.
So it's like the first and the third Tuesday or something like that, or what is it?
We are meeting this tomorrow. We're meeting tomorrow. So we're going to have a list of, I think we met last Tuesday, so we're not meeting this Tuesday. And then the next Tuesday is going to be the Christmas, so we're not gonna be that Tuesday. But if they call, we can get them put on a list so that we can get them with a provider or they can call Trillium. And I don't have that number with me right now, but they also can call,
I'll talk to you offline, because some of these folks have reached out to Trillium.
okay,
So,
all right.
I don't know, it does
It's just a question I had and wanted to see how far we're progressing on that.
Oh, yeah, also,
Still a lot of need in this community.
can you forward me that flyer on the workshop?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Said
thank you,
it
Ms.
was
Johnson.
Ostra.
I'm sorry.
Oslo
Sorry.
Strong Disaster Recovery
You wanna do that?
Alliance.
Oh, also, what's it, 211?
211 Sherwood.
No, I'm talking about, there's a.
Oh, 211.
211, excuse me.
Yes, they can call 211 if they still need some assistance.
Thank you, Trey.
Okay, now we have our one city, our city, my city moment. Advisory committee members are asked to allow a moment to reflect on different things that happen in our community that reflects that one city, my city, our city moments.
Well, currently on the slides, we have the two most recent parades. The first one is our Veterans Day Parade. And there's a few slides highlighting. If you notice here, our new mascot has been placed on display. And businesses have the opportunity to purchase one if they want it sitting outside their business. And of course, we have Councilman Jackson.
And his mother. Look at Mom. And that's his mother, Miss Avon Jackson.
And this was the first year that they had a Veterans Tribute Weekend. Did anyone get a chance to go?
Yeah, I did. It was nice. They had, matter of fact, they had, I forgot Mr. Spencer's ring. He was a Muffin Point Marine. And he was able to, and Mr. Spencer's in his 90s now. But, yeah, it was something else. Yeah.
And then secondly, we have our holiday parade. And Youth Council started out with the banner. And the theme that the city chose was Charles Dickens because Chamber of Commerce had an old-fashioned Christmas. So we did Charles Dickens Christmas carols. So that's why you'll see them highlighted. Dr. Woodruff had the kazoo band. And then Recreation Department, they did Charles Dickens as well with the fireplace, reading to the kids on the float. Cool. So.
Okay. Any future agenda items considering advisory committee members may offer suggestions of topics, ideas, policies, programs, and other action that advance the mission of the community engagement advisory committee. Any input? Opportunity to go ahead and espouse here.
I would just like to say this, and I'm sure everybody's aware of like I don't know if it's an uprise, but the awareness of human trafficking that's been going on. And just for everybody to remember, be vigilant, especially during this time of year, and pass the word. Because at one time we thought that was only for minors. Now we're understanding that it could be for any age person. It's not only for sex trafficking, but it's for human trafficking itself, for organs and things like that. So just be aware of it, and that may even be something that we have on our future agenda, to have the police department come back and kind of brief us on, how to be safe, how to remain vigilant, and how to really protect ourselves and our community.
I need to bring true justice in here too as well.
Earlier today, we were in a, I guess it's a training/planning for our community action agency for the next upcoming contract year. And I was watching something last night on one of the stations, you have all that holiday stuff going on TV. And I just sat there and based on the storyline I was watching, it occurred to me, children who age out of foster care. And there are a number of resources that are available to them. They can go to school, college, there are a number of resources. What do they do during the holiday? I went home for the holiday. Universities close during major holidays. Now you can stay there, I think, for Thanksgiving. But generally speaking, it's my understanding that the university closes for Christmas. The summertime, you have summer school and all that. But, when you've aged out, where do you go for the holiday? You have to go somewhere because you can't stay there. And I don't know, I just thought, it just came to me, and it's been on my mind for the last couple of days, just thinking about that whole situation. And we have, what the last number I heard was about 300,000 children in foster care in this country. And many of whom have been in there for years and may wind up staying in that system until they are grown, as we say. And when you're 18, you are emancipated from it, you go on out of high school, hopefully you graduate high school. Even if you use the money to go off to college, where do you go for the holiday? Unless you have a friend who can bring you home with them. I don't know of any comprehensive, structured way of looking at that question. I might be wrong, but just food for thought when you're thinking about, you see kids, because you talk about human trafficking.
Yeah.
And the whole issue behind a lot of these kinds of issues are the fact that people they're more isolated than we like to think that they are, especially during holidays. There's people just are doing the best they can. And all of us at some point or another, but at least if you have a roof over your head and you have somebody and some kind of a home. But when you're someone who has, from childhood, grown up in a situation and a system that by its very nature fractures relationships. Now, we can't get into discussion of what the right, wrong, how, why, but that's a discussion for another time.
Do you know,
But I'm just wondering, what do these kids do when they're growing up in foster care? Where do they go for the
is
holidays?
the Department of Social Services tracking the number of people that's actually
I have,
kids?
I don't know.
They should, I would wonder, that's going to college, actually, I'm wondering.
I know they do for purposes of the funding that you get to go to school,
Yeah.
but I don't think in
Was
any
it
other.
Kenny Vito or something like
Well,
that?
Something like that.
Even in my age, the college I went to opened up or left open a wing in the dorm
Oh.
for many times international students and those students who weren't going back over Christmas. And in fact, the cafeteria stayed open, not as large a manning by any means, but I have to assume with the number of international students, I know my brother is a principal at an international high school, and they have dormitories that stay open over the holidays. I mean, in fact, our holidays aren't even holidays that they celebrate. So,
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have no idea, I just want to throw that out there, like I said, it's the holiday season thought, and you may come upon some other group or some other meeting you're at where something like this is discussed, and just to throw it out there, or bring back some information if you.
One of the things that, I like to, after being in the Marine Corps for so long, a word always comes back, and maybe it could help us in the committee and those who are watching, is generosity. Generosity, it goes a long way. It will always be those people who are less fortunate, whether they be in school during the holidays or just any time of the year. And if we just remember to be generous to one another, be generous to other citizens, teach our children the same thing. I think we could solve a lot of those things, because we all need to be on the giving end and the receiving end of generosity at some point in life. So it could help a lot of things that we deal with, from the issues that we're dealing with, people still suffering from Hurricane Florence, to children not having a place to go during the holidays. So that's just a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I'm working on here in the next 4 months. Basically, almost what verbatim what you said there. Because basically, there's a lot of college students that go out there that don't make it because they don't have that support mechanism. And the support mechanism of school is trying to furnish, but can't, because it's always fighting to make the next dollar to keep in progress.
Exactly.
And that's hurting it. So we're looking back, we're going back a step to try to figure out how we can solidify this thing, not only among the school, but among the community, how the community can help out. So we're gonna analyze all those pathways, bring it back, and then if you were here in Jacksonville, maybe you guys can do what, we come up with some answers.
Sounds good.
I have to. Because that,
Okay, so
not gonna do it.
just want to go over some key dates. that we haven't gone over in our presentation. City offices are closed December 24th, 25th. Also on January 1st. Then our next homebuyer education course is gonna be held January 25th here at City Hall. Interested people should call 910-938-5286 to register for the classes. City office is also gonna be closed on January 20th for the Martin Luther King holiday. And just a reminder, public input meeting is gonna be held January 23rd at the Clyde Irwin Elementary School.
This is a save the date for the nonprofit annual board training. This year is January 30th and 31st. It will be at Sturgeon City. The registration link will become active soon, so please make sure that this is on your calendar. So when the registration link goes out, you'll be ready to register. And applications will be due early this year. February 5th will be the deadline for CDBG and PPP grant fund. And we have our money management seminar, it's February 8th. And since we will not see each other again until February 24th, wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And a happy
All
birthday
of you
to
all.
our vice chairperson, Bishop Smith, who will be in January.
Okay. Happy birthday.
How old are you gonna be, Sam Fisher?
22.
22, wow.
Happy 22nd birthday.
I'd like to just thank you all for all you do, because you don't have to be here, you know, and those that
Well, I
volunteer.
wish all of us good Christmas and a holiday, because it's gonna be a challenge next year. I got a funny feeling between election and the census, it's gonna be a tough one. No.
Yeah, but thank you, Tracy and Pam and Lily, who's not here. We got an excellent staff. Makes us look good all the time, like I actually know something. But yeah, Merry Christmas to all out there in TV world, and I look forward to continuously going forward to make Jacksonville the greatest place in the country,
There you go.
the world.
Thank you.
Definitely. You get somebody invested in this part of the country, everything's invested in the West.
That's it.
You know, I'm not gonna argue that point with you, Steve.
Need a motion to
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
What? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor, second, or second?
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor of motion to adjourn?
Aye.